Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Mike and Shots podcast powered by Buzzly. My name is Divyansh, and in this episode, I'll be talking to Saumil Chandira, who is the COO and co-founder of shadowing.ai. Now, shadowing.ai is essentially a platform that enables people to prepare better for all sorts of interviews with the power of AI. Now, Saumil has had an amazing professional journey. He did his MBA, he worked at Google for more than 5 years, and then he left Google to build shadowing.ai. So, if you're new to AI or you want to learn how entrepreneurs like Saumil are building some amazing applications with the power of AI, then this episode is exactly for you. Hey Saumil, what's up, man? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey Divyansh, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
Perfect, man. So I'm really excited to have you here, Saumil, because we are in this new era of technology where AI is creating kind of waves with generative AI specifically, and we see a lot of things happening in the space right now. So much is happening. Everything is getting disrupted in a way, not just jobs, our lives as well. And at the same time, you are actually doing something which is kind of aligned with preparing for jobs, right? With shadowing AI.
Yeah,
So I'm really excited for that as well. So and I know you, Somil, from my MBA days, right? We were together in college in Mumbai in
yeah.
2015, 2017. So we've been connected since then. So I'm glad we are kind of connecting again and to talk about things which are things which are going to change the world in the longer
Yeah.
run, which are already changing anyways. So, yeah, on that note, Somil, I think I'll hand it over to you. And I would love to know more about you and your journey.
Sure, sure. First of all, thanks again for having me here, Divyansh. It's great to connect after like our last conversation. In terms of my journey, so yeah, I'll just get started. So in terms of my journey, I think after NM where we met and where we were doing, our MBA, I moved to a small startup. It was a unicorn at that time called Shop Clues. Right. So did an internship there, converted there. So and it was a great learning experience. I think startups provide amazing learning experience. And I was taking care of CRM
Hmm.
channels, so email marketing, push notifications, so on and so forth.
Correct.
Spent around 8 to 10 months there, I think close to that. And then I started looking out, and that's when Google happened. So Google was back in Hyderabad, shifted my base, shifted my location, spent a good 5.5 years almost there,
Right.
primarily in one role, which was called digital marketing strategist role, where we
Okay.
used to help, mid-market segment clients
Hmm.
with their Google ad strategy, with their media budgets, aligning how they should enter certain markets, so providing more on the consultative side.
Got
But I
it.
keep shifting my market. So I was with D2C brands in US, then in UK, did a really good stint with a team called NBU in Google, which was Next Billion User. And that's
Okay.
one of the most interesting teams that I've found in Google because it's like a startup within the Google ecosystem.
Okay.
That's also the
Okay.
team responsible for Taze, actually, which later became GPay. So
Oh, okay.
amazing 6 months stint there where I worked in Cormo, which was like Google's take on job, a job portal for gig economy workers, with
Hmm.
Taskmate, another really good crowdsourcing app. And then I came back to my original job. But after all of that, I decided I think that it's time for me to come back to my own, like start something of my own. I'd done a bit of startup during my engineering days with a company called nationsroot.com. We were aiming for the 2014 political election at that time.
Okay.
So I had
Oh,
had some roots, some connections just to get me started. But yeah, leaving Google is still one of the toughest decisions that I have taken.
yeah.
And I hope things turn out well. But yeah, after that, last 6 months shadowing AI, and yeah, it's just been crazy last 6 months.
So it's been just 6 months for you at shadowing, and but you were making kind of waves over there. So I would love to know more about shadowing because I think I went through it and it's kind of revolutionary in a way because we can prepare for interviews essentially with the help of tech and AI, and that's something crazy. So I would love for you to talk about it at length also, and let's see where we go in that direction, like where we head. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, in simple words, basically, we want to empower job seekers in bringing their best selves to every interview, right? That's our mission. And we want to do this at global scale. I think one of the beauty of AI and that I've seen is the scale. Like, let's say we started by doing my co-founder Jwalant, who's based out of Texas in US. He started this company a couple of 2 years back, right? And initially he used to do one-on-one interviews with students, went to colleges, figure out, how do they currently function and all of that. So very, very on-ground sort of setup, helping candidates, students, community college students preparing for their upcoming job interview. So that's where we started. But that scale of actually being able to do that level of personalization at a global audience in one shot, I think that's what
Hmm.
AI has been able to unlock and at a fraction of the cost. Like I can't tell you, but we have been able to deliver this technology globally at less than $1, like less than $1 per practice.
Okay.
So that's the efficiency that now we have been able to reach after a lot of iterations. But that's the efficiency that we have been able to reach and the scale because we are able to do this in almost more than 60 languages and we keep on adding more.
Wow.
So that's the scale.
Wow.
And we have customers coming in from, I think, more than 50 countries. Like our fourth or fifth largest base is from Nigeria. And a lot of, almost all of this, 90 to 95% of this has been organic.
That's crazy, man,
So,
because you
yeah,
mentioned some great numbers that, the amount, the cost that you bear when you prepare for interviews and how much cost saving that's there. So I would like to know more about these facts as well. Like what's
yeah,
there happening in this industry, which is very striking and you got, kind of jumped here
yeah.
from your perspective. Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, just to give you like a before and after sort of thing, right? So before the solutions that were in the market, and we have also seen some first hand, right? So if you are in a very good B school, you would have the alum network come to you, right, for at least one interview. And that's usually the max that they would do, right? One or two interviews that they would take, help you prepare. And that would make a drastic change to your preparation, right? So, I mean, both of us know firsthand that if you go directly into an interview, your articulation is where the problem starts, right? It's not that you don't know, it's not that you don't have the domain knowledge or, you can't present. It's just the articulation because that stress, that pressure that you suddenly feel in front of a interviewer suddenly makes you stutter.
Hmm.
But just one practice in front of a mirror, in front of a camera, in front of someone, in front of a friend, colleague, anyone can actually make a huge difference because
Hmm.
that nervousness you are able to calm down because you can say to yourself that, okay, I've been here, I've
Yeah.
done this before. So basically, that's the hypothesis, right? That's what we are trying to solve for. That how do we make candidates practice? Take at least one, two, couple of practices for that same role before arriving at the actual interview. Now, the previous solutions that colleges usually provide globally is that they would either do a seminar, but that
Hmm.
would be a very one size fits all solution, right? Where
Correct.
you do a seminar, you say, okay, these are 10 best practices. Here are some PDFs. Please keep in mind, and that's that, right?
Right.
Or else, if there are some premium institutes or if you have higher affordability, you hire some coaches. So you have, coach mentors, coaches,
Yeah.
interview preparation, but they can cost you like more than $100 for sure, like globally.
Okay.
But in India, I think it still is more than 500 rupees for even a
Right.
30-minute session.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
so that's the
Yeah.
usual pricing that's currently there, which means that there are only a few people in the country and globally are able to afford it,
Right.
right? And
Hmm.
like my personal take on this was that we need to democratize this. It needs
Hmm.
to be within everyone's reach so that everyone has an equitable start
Yeah.
to
Right.
their journey, right? I mean, so how do we equip everyone with the tool set at an extremely affordable price without having language as their barrier?
Okay.
That's where we started with, and that's how we are able to provide it. Like our cheapest package currently in India is less than 150 rupees for the entire week, almost 10 to 15 practices, and we are going to make it even more affordable in the coming
Wow.
weeks and days.
And when you said preparing for interviews, in a way, you mentioned preparing in front of a mirror and a camera, and it takes lots of time as well to prep yourself, like just to go in front of that mirror or that camera, because I do a
Hmm.
lot of recording, so I can understand.
Yeah.
And when you said it helps you prep through tech, right? What's your perspective on facing a human versus facing AI? Like, what do you think about that? Because definitely that's a question that's there in my mind also. So, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a big question. I think most of the players that are in the market today. So there's like first of all, just to understand the market, it's at least a $10 billion industry as of now, growing
Wow.
at 7.5 to 10% CAGR. And this is again very tentative numbers because it's not like there has been formal studies done on just the job interview preparation market. But that's our best case estimate that it's a $10 billion market growing extremely fast. And one of the ways we validate how big is this industry is to look at who are your peers. Right? Now, I know for a fact that companies like Google and LinkedIn who are now entering this space, like Google has a something called warm up, LinkedIn has interview prep. These behemoths won't enter the industry unless there is a significant market size available for them to capture. Right?
Right.
And both of these players have entered. Other companies are also trying something or the other in this space. So that's the first thing. Like it's a huge market, right? Most of the peers that are the solutions that are out there are very text and audio based,
Right. Okay.
right? So you basically there's a question that comes up like a text in front of you, there's an audio that someone is talking to you, but there's no avatar. There's literally no one in front of
Right.
you who comes in,
Yeah.
and that's why you might not feel the complete experience of what you were saying, right? What happens, right? But we thought that we'll go one step ahead, right? We'll actually introduce an avatar. So if you look at HeyGen, which is one of the
Yeah.
leading avatar
Right.
making
Yeah.
companies, right? And you look at the kind of new avatars that are coming up every day, you can get extremely close to a real person. But I think one
Okay.
thing is the way the person looks, feels, the smaller details, the depth and everything, which I think within a very short period of time will be extremely close to reality, if not already. But the
Correct.
second thing is, how does that person behave? Like when we are talking
Yeah.
here, we are nodding, we are blinking. There's certain head movement that comes along with it, right? There are some eyebrows that go up and down. There's a hand movement. These are certain elements that contribute to that, real life
Right. Yeah.
experience. The second thing is the quality of questions and follow-up questions more than that you ask. Like it needs to be impromptu, it needs to be live. Right? It can't be a templatized 5 question set that I have fed into the system and you are asking them one by one. And that's why in shadowing AI we have something known as follow-up questions. For anything that you
Okay.
answer to in front of that avatar, it will immediately take that in and ask you a
Okay.
follow-up question that is attuned to the role that you have selected and to the response that you have thrown in. And
Crazy.
that is what makes it more realistic.
Oh wow. Which means that if I sit in front of like shadowing.ai's tech and your virtual interviewer, so that person is going to behave like, say, more like a human or getting towards that. And the questions that the person will ask will depend on the answers that I give, also probably.
Correct.
And you will also capture my nuances, which is probably the facial expressions and all that stuff,
Yes.
which
So
makes it
in
all the more
terms of
complex.
the
Yeah.
yeah, no, go ahead.
I was saying that which makes this whole experience kind of complex to to understand because just speaking you're actually taking in every all the inputs, right?
Yeah.
What's is that correct? My understanding correct?
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of the final feedback that we provided, because I think in US, what we found is almost 55% of college students, right, came back and said that, and there's a study on this, it's somewhere between 45 to 55, the number I'm forgetting right now, but those people came back and said that the feedback that they get after giving an interview is extremely vague and in a lot of cases unhelpful. And I think both
Hmm.
of us would also have seen this, right? We get a lot of
Yeah.
times, it's a very templatized feedback. So how do
Right.
you improve? Like, especially if you're not in the job market, you're just trying to enter. How do you improve if you don't get the right feedback? And that's again something that we are solving for. And we do this through our analytics. So we divide this into three parts. The first part is domain knowledge, right? Because that's an absolutely must have, and that's like the core pillar. So how well is your response to the question that was asked? And we match it with industry standards, and we give you a score based on that. Right? We also provide you some of the terminologies that you might have missed out, which could add to your behavior. We also tell you what you did well, because and that's like has been a learning for us. Like initially, we just used to directly tell you what went wrong, and we realized that sometimes it might hit egos. Right? If I just
Hmm.
come out and tell you that, hey, this is a list of all the things that you're doing wrong. So we made some iterations. So currently, we'll always start with saying that, okay, this is something that you did well. And that's good because you are now ready to take in more feedback.
Right.
Right. Then we
Yeah.
tell you, okay, what could have been better, the terms that you didn't use, and all of that. So that's the domain knowledge part. The second part, and this is something that I've learned in while working in other companies, is that we don't just look for whether you are knowledgeable or not. we also want to understand how are you able to structure your thoughts.
Okay.
And that's exactly what's the second parameter, which is articulation, which is a
Right.
combination of structuring thoughts and use of examples. So are you
Hmm.
throwing in ad hoc answers, or is your response, are you actually taking a breather, waiting for 10
Right.
seconds, structuring your answer and then
Okay.
giving it so that there's a logical pattern to your
Right.
response? And that's
Right.
something that we provide feedback on, and the overall score is a component of this.
Got it.
And the final thing is use of examples, because especially because we also do behavioral rounds as well as technical or role related rounds. So use of examples tells an interviewer whether they have done something similar to the past, and are you able to join the two things together. So I can say I have done all this when I was working in this. I saw this, I solved for this, so that it adds a sort of trust, a validation,
Got
and
it.
that goes a long, long way, right? So that's the second parameter. And the third is body language, where we
Okay.
look at eye movement, head movement, your confidence, your pace, your speed, your accent, what kind of filler words you are using. And the final score is a combination of all these three.
Got it.
Sorry, that's a long answer.
That's, but from what I hear is that, ultimately the system you're kind of building, from what I hear, is moving towards something called as, it's very futuristic, something called as AGI, which is artificial general intelligence.
Hmm.
Like people are now talking about it, and Meta's like saying we're gonna open source it. So say the AI replaces a human and it does exactly what a human does, right? So in a way, you're preparing not exactly an AGI, but moving towards an interviewer, an AGI, say, who is going to be like your interview buddy and
Yeah.
going to prepare you from all aspects, right? And what's interesting here is that you've had an interesting journey for sure. Like I would like to
Hmm.
know more about it, anyways. And you come from a non-tech background. When
Hmm.
I say non-tech, like you worked as a marketing guy in Google, and then you worked at
Yeah.
Shawclose, and you were from NM when we were together. You
Yeah.
were created marketing, right? So first, talk about how's been your journey in this space, in shadowing and learning these things as a non-tech co-founder.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So one thing I'll say is that everything that I'm saying in terms of tech and AI and AGI also, all of these are borrowed opinions. 90% of them are borrowed opinions, and only 10% would be the ones that I would have made, right? Almost like a disclaimer that I want to call out, because it's still very new, and it's
Yes.
new for me, and it's new for the entire industry, right? So it's
Right.
all about like how much do you hear, how much do you learn, how much do you read. So that's like the baseline that I want to set. But yeah, after like even when I was at Google, I was really really keen on like the product side as well.
Okay.
So like how can we make products better? Like just tried giving feedback, internal feedback, and a lot of these stuff to the product teams as well. Conducted studies and everything on how we can make products better. So I was already always invested in the product side, but definitely I don't understand the technical part of it. But after doing a couple of stints in this NBO team, I also realized that you don't always have to be a technical product manager. So there are two kinds of product manager, right? There's a technical product manager, and then there's like creative product managers, general product managers as well. Right? So I realized that some basic understanding of technical is required so that you can have a conversation with the engineers, talk and understand the timelines that it would take for some tasks to finish or not. And that's how you're able to prioritize. But more than that, it's about the customer centricity, right? How well do you understand the problem? How well are you able to think from a customer standpoint and then draw back to the solution? And I think that interest is what got me excited about shadowing AI in the first place. Okay, it's new. My
Right.
co-founder is a technical co-founder,
Okay.
and that goes a long, long way. I think for me,
Yeah.
that's like the perfect match,
Correct.
because then I can start dabbling in both ends. So I can take care of marketing because that is something that I own, but I also take care of PM, which is a product manager sort of role,
Product
because
management.
I
Okay.
take care of the UI, UX, understanding customer problems, digging into the data, and then connecting it back, having a
Right.
conversation with him. So having these daily conversations with him, first of all, helps me understand the timeline space on how to, and then daily interactions with the engineers, the dev team again helps you
Hmm.
with that.
Hmm.
And in terms of AI, I think it's about reading fundamental stuff. So starting with literally scalars, vectors, matrices, like your algebra, building on top of it, understanding the
Okay.
basics of Python, NumPy, Pandas, just so that you understand where is this technology going, and then understanding it in a way where you are able to explain it to everyone that what exactly is machine learning, what exactly is LLM, how does it function. So telling it about to your friends, and I think that gives a lot of clarity as well.
You know, because what you said is something very interesting. The journey that you had, like in terms of
Hmm.
learnings as well. Like going forward, I want you to create a small journey, like for anybody
Hmm.
who's listening, that, if they
Hmm.
want to level up as a non-tech person
Hmm.
over here,
Hmm.
like just like
Hmm.
you are doing, what should be some of the thing that they should do, one, two, three, four, five, so that we are, when they listen, they're like exactly, okay, one, two. It may not be 100% correct or whatever, but the
Yeah.
journey that you're following is very interesting, and
Yeah.
personally as well, I want to learn more about this. So what do you think are the some of the steps that people should take to level up as a non-tech person, probably getting
Hmm.
into, say, AI space as a in a job, probably, or also
Yeah.
as a founder, or as a consultant, or as an agency, or whatever, like
Yeah.
just to level
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, let me go step by step, and there
Yeah.
might be a couple of steps that we might have to exchange later.
Yeah.
But okay, the first thing I would say is find a problem. Find a problem that you are invested in, right? Because if you don't find a problem, the theoretical thing will bore you very quickly. Find a problem that you are invested in, interested in remotely, and where you would like to see an outcome.
Right.
So for my case, let me take the example of solving for this interview practice and preparation market. Right? So that's the problem. Second, start thinking about the solutions. Right? So okay, what are the current deficiencies in this market? Like where are the current gaps, the opportunities? And so let's say one of the opportunity is providing feedback. Right? Students, candidates, job seekers don't get feedback, don't get at least feedback at the level of granularity where they can improve interview on interview, right? So that's what I want to solve for. That's step two. Find the solution. And all of this doesn't require technology, right? Till now. It's more about just thinking, thought
Correct.
processes and everything, right? Now, once
Correct.
you figure out a solution, go on, GitHub, go on Google, do your research on what are the existing solutions
Right.
in the
Yes.
market. Right. So I think that will give you a flavor of what's already been done, right, and what's pending. So sometimes what might end up happening is you might say that okay, something has already been done 80%. It's just the
Right.
next 20% that you need to bridge, and so you can focus it in there. And sometimes you might find a completely new white space where you have the
Correct.
liberty to create something afresh. In our case, it was like half and half, where some of the initiatives were taking place by some of these companies, where but we figured that it's not a complete interview experience. There's no simulation, the depth of insights is missing, right? So again, that's the third step. Right? Identify what is the current development in the market.
Got it.
Right? And then you come to that, okay, once you figured out exactly what you have to do in terms of solution, you start talking to people in the industry. So for me, it was the dev team, it was my
Okay.
co-founder, figuring out what they knew, what were the resources that they didn't have. Because see, I think if I want to start my journey again as a technical person, I have to read everything, learn everything. It's a 4-year course, right?
Yeah.
Computer science. And
Right.
that's not the right use of my time. So I'd rather hire someone who understands some part of it. I understand the application layer of it, and we join forces to make it slightly quicker. Because the time to market in this space is going to be crucial. There are
Yeah.
companies who have already have distribution and are figuring out the tech. There are companies who have the tech and are figuring out the distribution. And
Interesting.
this is a flat market right now, but very soon there will be winners. And I think the industry is waiting for, one of those horses to go out and win. So be very quick to market. So if you think you'll start by, just starting from the fundamentals, it will take a long time to come to the application there.
And when you say there are going to be some players, it's a flat sort of a market right now, and they're going to be players. How soon do you think things are going to like move up in a way that some startups are going to die and some are going to like flourish? And what do you think, when is that happening? Because we are almost 1 year, some months into Gen AI now.
Yeah. So I think it's already happening. I mean, if you've seen like from GPT-3 to GPT-4, when GPT-4 was released and there's DALI integration, Mid-Journey V6 when it was released, look at Runway and where it is in terms of video generation with AI. I think every iteration is making it obsolete. I remember the first feature that everyone was in awe of was that this
Correct.
PDF summarizers and readers,
Right,
where
right,
if
right.
you add a PDF, it could give you like a complete summary of a 100-page PDF in like 10 lines. Right? And we
Right.
thought, and there were so many startups that were working in that space, right?
Correct.
And the next GPT-4 update actually had that ingrained in itself, either through
Yeah.
plugins or its own thing, right? Coding, right? The entire Python libraries are now sitting within GPT-4, right? So
Right.
I think that thing is already happening. Startups are coming, going out, coming, going out, everything. So it basically depends on what what unique proposition are you bringing in the market? Like for us, it is the unique set of questions that we have researched in last 2 years
Hmm.
around like these interview practices. It's our own proprietary video technology that we layer on in detection of motion and visuals, right? And trying to figure out what's the right fine tuning that is required on a lot of these models.
Got it. And when you say you need to move fast as well, right? And say coming from marketing background as well, how do you like, because people are the industry is moving so fast that people have to read up, have to
Hmm.
like read researches and just follow
Yeah,
places. So I know that GitHub is a great place to like just see
yeah,
what's trending in AI, right? And
yeah.
there may be some other resources. One of them is a YouTube channel by I think one of the co-founders of OpenAI, Andrej Karpathy,
Hmm,
who
hmm.
talks a lot about LLMs because he's
Yeah,
done that stuff, and he says that right now LLMs can do things that you instruct them to do. Like they are dumb in a way that you can just tell them and they'll do it, whatever you ask them to
yeah.
do. They don't think too much. The level two of thinking is when you ask something, they kind of within themselves they analyze and they criticize and then they provide that answer.
Right.
When that starts
Reasoning.
happening, yeah,
Yeah.
that's when truly the AI stuff is gonna like go crazy, and then
Yeah,
probably then
I
the
think
AGI
that's
thing.
that's the pathway to AGI, right? I mean, if you look at GPT 3.5, the free version today, and if you ask it what is 2 plus 2, right? It is not doing the reasoning because if you ask it 5 times, it might give one answer which is not 2 plus 2
Correct.
equal to 4, right? Because what it is doing, it is predicting the next word based on the data that has gone into it, right? It is not
Right.
doing the reasoning. But if you look at GPT-4, what they have done, and I also noticed it very, very recently, that they have integrated it into their coding. So because they also have integrations of where
Hmm.
it is able to give coding, right? So they use the coding libraries to give the right answer rather than the LLM working towards it. Right. So that reasoning part is a very quintessential part that's currently not completely built out. But I think most of the effort, from what I've heard, is going into that part, like figuring
Hmm.
out that reasoning part. So I don't think it is too far.
And I'm doing a small course on GenAI to understand the space better as well. So I also, while I was doing the course, I understood that prompt engineering, people are saying it's a
Hmm.
job which is
Hmm.
upcoming and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But they're also saying that because it's kind of boomed so much, it's gonna go away because prompt engineering is essentially English.
Yeah.
So you just have to be good at English to be a prompt engineer. So that's not a
Hmm.
legit job per se.
Hmm.
It's only say what do you call a trend which is going on.
Hmm.
They're gonna rename it something else. So probably people should not just focus on prompt engineering per se. They
Yeah.
should also start reading up on the tech advancements which are happening because that's the real deal. And I think
Hmm.
in a way, every person like who's even a non-tech person like I am and like you are will eventually know things about tech, and
Yeah.
it'll be easier for us to build going forward because building now is so easy. If you want
Yeah.
to like
Exactly.
come up with an app or come up with an idea, custom GPT you can create in a flash in
Yeah.
seconds, right? So from this I just wanted to like my perspective is that there are some fundamental things which will not change. So people are running after prompt engineering, people are running after probably other things which are going in AI, but there are some fundamental things which will never change. For example, the language, which is English,
Hmm.
or say any other language which is there in the world. So core skills like language, mathematics, biology, for example, right? Science, etc., probably may not change as much. So people should also like should have core skills first, and then probably should level up on AI as well. Like that's my perspective of what I'm seeing right now because it's moving so fast.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have I have slightly a more philosophical take on this rather than a more practical one, which is to say that, okay, like, see, whether it's prompt, whether it's anything, right? It's the thought, like your starting thought. You said building GPTs, right?
Yeah.
But it was that thought, right, that came to your mind that I want to build a GPT on this, right? Or when you talk about prompt engineering, right, there's a thought that you're coming into this saying that, okay, I want to build a prompt for this as an outcome. So, but and that origination of that thought can only come by your experience, exposure, and knowledge, right? So I think those are non-negotiables from what at least I understand. And again, it's a very, very fledgling thought at this stage, but I think that's where the focus would be. Don't
Hmm.
get me wrong, prompt engineering has a huge value. I've seen it
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
has
it
a huge
does.
value, but it is, I would say, like how you have to know coding to talk to machines, right? That's why you have courses like computer science and everything.
Correct.
The next level is if you want to talk to LLMs, you need to know prompt engineering. But like slowly and gradually coding is going away and you're directly able to converse with an LLM and able to get what you want.
Hmm.
Slowly there might be a place where even that will go away and you
Right.
just are able to talk to, a machine as we are talking about. And I think that's where they want to take it as well. Right? But I do
Right.
want to emphasize the importance of things like temperature settings, which
Yeah.
are currently being
Right.
used in the APIs as well, right? Don't miss out on that. Don't forget that how they are being used, right, to have a more deterministic versus a more creative response when you are
Hmm.
thinking of the application. But all of that will only come once you think of the application or the
Right.
requirement first. Do you need
Correct.
a lower temperature setting or a higher temperature setting? Do you
Correct.
want an expert as a prompt or do you want an intermediary prompt? Right. So
Correct.
I think that matters more.
I think that's a very interesting take because when you said LLMs, we are talking about having core skills. You worked at Google, and Google is a big tech company, right? And
Hmm,
it's developing its own LLM, which is
hmm,
now Gemini, right? Similarly, OpenAI has its own LLM, right? So we are kind of dependent on these big tech because training an LLM is or any other model is extremely expensive right now, and even building
yes.
models is way expensive, right? Do you think, or you worked at Google, that's why I'm asking this question. Are you scared of big tech in a way that okay, someday or the other they will come and probably they can do anything with tech and we'll be disrupted? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Big tech.
So I'll say that I wouldn't say I'm scared, but I do see them as a healthy competition that can come any day. It's gonna be a good challenge to have always. But I won't say that I know of this because I was working at Google. I actually know more about this after leaving Google because that's when you start seeing them as peers or
Yeah.
competitors, right?
Yeah.
When you're there, you don't think about it, right, that much. But in terms of LLMs, the way I think about it is like you need parameters, you need data points, right? So whoever has more distribution, right, we'll be able to build LLMs better. So that's why you see most of the refined models today are either Llama from Meta, GPT from OpenAI, Gemini from Google, right? And
Yeah.
these are the leading ones. And then open source has again, there's Alpaca and there's like tens of more that are open sourced models that are also
Hmm.
coming into the frame. But in terms of what the world is using, it is more between these three, from what I understand it. This is because it
Hmm.
also brings a level of trust when it comes from reputed organizations like this. So I think there's this trust of integrations, right? If you go to ChatGPT, they've opened up complete integration suite. Gemini
Right.
is already
Yeah.
built this into GCP, which is Google Cloud Programs, right? Microsoft is doing Copilot, all of
Correct.
that already going, right? And I'm sure Meta will also do it if not already there. Right? So it's also that trust and the stability that this
Hmm.
will work that
Correct.
these big tech bring to that.
Right.
And that's why I would say work, like my take was on like after understanding all of this was work on the application end,
Correct. Yeah.
right? Rather than thinking about like too much backend. So we are thinking about fine tuning because
Yeah.
that's something that we can do through our own data, but
Right.
we are not at this stage thinking about building something up from scratch.
That is exactly what Shikhar said. So Shikhar was there in the previous podcast. He's into data labeling and
Hmm,
AI. He exactly said
hmm,
the same thing that don't train your own model or don't build your
hmm.
own model right now. Just
Yeah,
fine tune it and work on the
yeah,
application layer. And when I say applications and tech, so I'm coming back to Google because there are some things which you learn in big tech, right? You may
yeah.
be learning some leadership lessons as well, and you worked there for almost 5 years, more than 5 years. What are the learnings that you've had over there that you're applying over here in
Hmm.
shadowing, probably? Because you're now out of Google, I can probably ask you this question. So, what are your learnings from Google and how you're applying them here, and probably leadership as well? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, those five and a half years at Google were a dream. I think more than the company and the culture, I think it's about the people. Like like day in and day out, you surround yourselves with people who are equally and more competent. So you always have a bar, a benchmark to look up to, and always strive for improvement and perfection. I think that's something that I will always miss, right? It will take me a while to have a team like which has such high level of talent density.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's like the preface. But in terms of what I've learned, I would say one is I think more around stakeholder management, which I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now that even though it is a thrown around jargon, but it actually has a much more deeper impact because it means that you are able to take the team together, right?
Right.
You're able to
Yeah.
get the team, and it's a very soft leadership skill. And I think I'm still on the process of developing it. But like whenever there's a team meeting, whenever we do even this with this small team that we have at Chatting AI, it's about getting the team in together, showing them the vision, showing them that okay, all of us are going to work on this for the next 1 month. Right?
Okay.
I think that's definitely one thing. The second thing probably would be pitching
Okay.
because we are currently at a stage where we are reaching out to investors, accelerators, so on and so forth. And again, I didn't realize it when I was at Google. I realized it more after now that it comes so naturally to me to create a pitch deck, to understand what a flow should look like, to understand how to do a market sizing, to understand, what could be important for the person who's looking at it. For me, it came in very naturally, but it's when I came in, I realized, okay, this is not a very common skill as of now. So I think that's the second. And yeah, and I think apart from that, it is more around finding the right metrics to optimize on. Because I think
Right.
the journey and the importance of a startup is completely built around finding the right metrics that you will optimize for. Because the only way you can be a startup for a longer time is speed. And speed without direction will just kill you. And the direction is what the matrix provide.
Interesting, man. Because I'm noting these things because they are so, what do you call, insightful from a leadership perspective, because you're a young leader right now. You've just kind of got into this amazing space. So bringing people together, pitching, following the right metrics, and speed to market, as you talked about. I think these are like things which leaders should focus on when they start out their own ventures as well, right? When they hire folks. And I have another thing which, because you started out, I think only 6 7 months ago, as from personal perspective.
Yeah.
Do you think there are some things you should take care of while starting out, is from your perspective? Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And I can say this more confidently after 6 months. I think two things that will go a long way. One, family, like ensure that they are on board, ensure that they
Okay.
understand the sacrifices that you are going to make, that they are going to make when you jump into this, and ensure that they are there for the long term. I don't think you can, like, whenever you jump into this space, and given that it's developing, and given like your timelines can be off by months is what I would say because you don't know the exact timelines. Like when you work in a small team, even if one member is not well
Yeah.
or is out for any reason, it can drastically slow you down, right?
Absolutely.
So one is getting your family on board that it's a long time commitment and it will take a lot of sacrifices. So ensuring that you take them together. And second, I would say financials. Like I also didn't think that it would be like how important it could be, but more than that, I think it's not about the amount. It's more about you being comfortable in this space
Yes.
for a long run without earning
Yes.
money.
Yeah.
Right? That way you will be able to think long term. I think more than that, that is what is required.
And when you said family and financials, I think I can relate, because even I left my job to like work on Buzzly and other stuff. And it just did hit me later that, you have to think about these two things, family and financials, because I'm married right now. Like you already know that I'm married.
Yeah.
And I do stay at home, but people do ask me questions like, "What are you doing? Right? How is it going?" And I have to tell them what's going on exactly. And you have to really be comfortable when it comes to finances, because it takes a while to reach the place where you want to, and
Yeah.
you have to figure out other revenue sources in the meantime. Like personally, also I just tried a few things here and there which worked out, but it may not always work out for a lot of people initially.
Yeah, I think you
So
have been in this
that's
space more than I have, like this startup journey. Like, you would be able to tell more on like the things that one should take in
Buzzly, it's
mind.
been a year, but
Hmm.
mostly into content. I've been into content for the last 6 years, as you know,
Yeah.
2018. Instead, did my first actually startup in 2014. It was called fratmart.com, peer-to-peer
Hmm.
marketplace for buying and selling stuff, college stuff, within your own college and between colleges. So both ways.
Nice.
2014 was way back when Flipkart just came in, and we were very excited about Flipkart and Amazon. That's when we started implementing and testing. And funny enough, the two interns who worked for us in Fratmart, their names are Taranjeet Singh and Deshraj Yadav. Both of these folks are now founders of a company called Embed Chain, now in SF. So that's
Nice.
absolutely crazy to know that they're doing great stuff, and they were interning with us in Fratmart, and we were like doing our stuff over there. So things change. They take time to actually show results. Like 2014 is way
Yeah.
back, 10 years ago, and now
Yeah.
they're doing their own stuff in 2024. So you know how
Yeah.
you have to stick with the process. That's another thing.
Yeah, basically it's about probability, right? It's about casting a wide net. The more you are present, like for the more number
Yeah,
of years you are present, I think your net is that wide,
it is.
and that basically ensures that your visibility is also that long.
Correct. And if you look at other companies, like say this company called Gumroad. Gumroad
I
is
know.
very
Yeah,
old. Gumroad is 2012, 2014. It took so many years to like bring it to this spot for the founder Sahil, so and others as
Sahil.
well. Yeah. So many stories and so much to learn from them. Like, okay, you want to move fast, we should move fast, but we have to like be in the space, go through the ups and downs of starting up as well, because it's not always in your hands as well at times, that you may be slow,
100%.
very slow, things are just standing at one place. It may also happen, but you have to like stick with the process and just bear with it. So I
100%.
think that was an interesting perspective from you on the startup journey. I think let's just dive into Gen AI space a bit, so that how do you look at the Gen AI space? Like, what's the future like from your perspective in Gen AI? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, one is let's get comfortable with how I define Gen AI. I say how I define because I think there are a lot of ways you can talk about it, but anything that is like AI generated, right? So it could be as simple as text, it could be audio. We see new music coming around, which is, AI created. It could
Right.
be video. Runway is organizing a film festival. I think it's a second
Wow.
film festival. And me and my sister were thinking, okay, can we apply into this, right? So, and like how? So that's again generating video through it. So anything that generates it, that's Gen AI. So the way I think about it is like very soon a lot of these creative industries are also going to have a big part of AI coming into this. And if you were to think logically, you would have said that creative industry would be the last one to get automated. Like you would have thought about, okay,
Yeah.
blue collar workers first,
Correct.
white collar workers second, creative workers the last. But like the turn of events, it's like it came first for the creative industry. Like the
Exactly.
first thing that we were doing with LLMs was writing storybooks, writing poetry, all of that, right? Now we are
Yeah.
generating videos, doing a lot of these avatars and
Deep
everything.
fakes.
So deepfakes, yeah, for that matter. So it's gonna be like it was very interesting to see that okay, it came for almost all three together
Right.
and massively. Like I think more than anything, I am thinking that okay, hardcore offline skills will suddenly again have a much more higher demand.
Right.
Like the
Right.
carpenter that comes to my home because I just recently shifted, those skills I think will take a long time to get
Yeah.
automated versus the things that I am doing. So multimodality is going to come very soon. And I think Sam Altman in one of his conversations also mentioned that. And what we mean by multimodality for everyone is we initially just said text in,
Yeah.
text out. Then we had text in, audio out, audio in, text out, text
Correct.
to speech to text. Then anyone familiar with Midjourney knows text to image, DALI,
Right.
text to image. Then there is image to image. A Midjourney
Correct.
allows you to enter an image, gives you an image. Runway got to video, so text to
Yeah.
video, image to video, right? And now it will be video input, video output
Right.
also, right? So
Yeah.
that is the spectrum that we're talking about in terms of multimodality, and that itself can change so many dimensions. Like even if I
Correct.
talk about just my industry, career preparation, like someone can actually now come in with a video and video output, just provide his or her complete interview into the system and get
Right.
everything that they want from it, be
Yes.
it text, be it audio, be it video. What were the exact time zones in which I did not perform well or could have improved, right? Exact moments that I was blinking or whatever that is, right? So I think I can see it being a massive, massive change.
And funnily, because you mentioned multimodality, video to video, today I was testing stable diffusion, image to text to image and image to image. So multimodality also is like image to image. So I was
Yeah.
testing something called as control net. where you can actually control poses and facial, like you have your photo and you want to create similar photos.
Hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah,
you could actually do that. You could control everything from
yeah.
the way you pose, the way you look, and everything, the edges. So it is definitely coming fast, and it's gonna like probably disrupt things again. Not sure, let's see.
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%. I think it's also very interesting that you need to go back to these things. Like I would have gone to Stable Diffusion about 6 months back, and it was at a very, very fledgling state at that time. And if I go back after 3 months versus if I go back after 6 months, it would have been a completely different game altogether. So you
yes.
can't even discard saying that, okay, this is where it is right now. You actually have to go back and see where it is right now.
Correct. And when things move so fast in any space, sometimes you wonder, should you just sit and watch and
Mhm.
learn, or just start executing, because it's a double-edged sword. Like things will change, but
Yeah.
do you sit or do you keep moving? What do you want to do? Like, what's your perspective here? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's about risk and reward game,
Yes.
right? So I think being on the bleeding edge of technology has its own risk that like one, you don't have a stable salary or anything coming in,
Yeah.
but like at least the hope is that the reward is also outsized if the risk is outsized, right? So the more foundational you are, the more larger the tree should be ideally. So I think for me, it's that. And also I think it's a very personal take what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So I think
Yeah.
one another thing why one of the reasons of leaving Google was I was doing like I was doing the same thing or similar things over and over again, and I found that maybe I want to do new things. I want new challenges every day, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
here. So I think, but I enjoy my everyday now because it's a fresh
Yeah.
challenge.
It's a fresh
And
challenge.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, and then the space. I think then it's about the space. So it's the tech, it's AI, right? It's a domain where I'm interested in and where I can see global impact.
Yeah.
So the good thing about being in B2C and B2B, and you have also seen this firsthand, is the feedback loop is so much close, right? It's
Yes.
so much faster that
It's
you
very
get a kick
fast.
out of that.
Correct. It's very fast. And when you say feedback loop and you envision, say, the future, what is the ultimate vision that you have for AI? Like the most scary or the most fantastic vision, whatever you think, like surprising vision that you may have in your mind about the future with AI. It may
Yeah,
not
I
be
think
just Gen
it
AI.
will
Yeah.
correct, correct, correct. So I think it will go back to the fundamental issues that we have to solve. Again, I don't think I'm suited for these big conversations, but a lot of them are borrowed opinions. But healthcare, I think aging is going to be a big
Oh
player in
yeah.
how do we have healthcare, how do we solve healthcare. I
Aging.
noticed a very interesting study where the entire roles of radiologists, right, where you do like MRI,
Yeah.
scanning, identifying what's wrong, what's correct. I think that's a really good place for AI to come in because it has so much data it can learn from. There's a very clear labeling that this is
Correct.
what it is from the past, and the data is there. So very quickly it can take up and say that, okay, out of these 1 lakh MRIs, it will help you figure out those edge cases, very, very
Right.
edge cases with a very, very small, which might not be possible with manual screening.
Yeah.
And so healthcare, I think, is a good space which can be solved through AI.
Right.
Second, I think some foundationals around education. Like my
Yeah.
sister currently works at Seva Foundation and was working in villages with the primary schools, right? And the level of education there, the opportunity there to, solve for it, like through technology, providing the right set of content, providing the right set of medium. I think multimodality can be a big change there. Like imagine being able to provide video for each and every chapter with a very practical application.
That's crazy.
So education, right? So education can be transformative in a way that it's not always fixed. See,
Yeah.
everyone could have a different way of curiosity.
Yeah.
Currently, we have a fixed syllabus for all of that. Right? Imagine if you have the option to go into one curious lane and just keep going till you figure out where your curiosity takes you,
Crazy.
irrespective of the syllabus, irrespective of which
Yeah.
class or standard that you are in, right? And that's possible with the tools that are currently there. So I think education is going to be a big, big space that I'm passionate about.
I can actually imagine an AI mentor, like you're just talking to that mentor. That mentor knows everything about your syllabus and beyond. Just keep talking,
Yeah,
talking, and you get information and you learn and they converse with you. And from
yeah,
that also, like within my domain, which is like content and podcasting, like we are doing as humans,
yeah.
probably yours is interview prep. Probably two AIs will talk to each other
Talk to each
someday.
other. Yeah,
Yours and mine. Avatars will
yeah,
talk, and then we'll have podcasts that ways, and
yeah,
that also in the metaverse,
yeah,
which is being done by Meta.
yeah.
So
I think then the interesting question will come is, what do we do?
yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, I mean, like the one is of course we need to do more, but then there'll always be more challenges. With more solutions, I think there'll be more challenges, more problems that can also come, which we'll solve for higher class. But like if you have more time, because I think in the first layer, what AI did is bring higher productivity, right? Which ideally should mean that it should have freed up more time, right?
Yeah.
Now, that time either led to some level of jobs going away, right?
Yes.
Or it led to efficiency increase, so the same person could do 10 more tasks, right?
Correct.
But, and this is just the first layer. So imagine what would be in the 10th, nth iteration, at what level time you will have and all. So I think that would be an interesting story.
Like you will be free to do things you only imagine doing. Like be so free to
Yeah,
stuff whatever you feel like doing, and everything else has been done by technology.
yeah.
Like, that's a crazy future to have, and probably that will also puts in the question that will AI replace humans 100% when it comes to work.
Mm.
So it's a debatable thing right now,
Yeah,
probably.
100%.
On that note, I think we had a great conversation, Saumil. I'm enlightened because I got such great perspective from you and also non-tech perspective, which was much needed and even for listeners. So thank you for this, Saumil. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Divyansh, for having me again here. It was really, really good to chat.
Perfect, man. And take care and all the best for shadowing.ai. It's going to do great because
Thank
you're
you. Thank you
in a
so much.
great space already. So
Yeah.
all the best, man. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.